Hi, I'm Chris, horror filmmaker and fanatic, here to explain how scary movies are. Today, I'm going over The Ring, released in 2002. It sounds like just another urban legend. A videotape filled with nightmarish images leads to a phone call foretelling the viewer's death in exactly 7 days. Newspaper reporter Rachel Keller is skeptical of the story, until 4 teenagers all die mysteriously exactly 1 week after watching just such a tape. Now Rachel races against time to uncover the mystery and put a stop to the curse before it's too late. Made on a sizable budget of $48 million, this movie made $249 million at the box office, jump-starting the American craze of remaking Japanese horror films. Rotten Tomatoes score of 71%, audience score of 48%. That is quite a dip. I wonder which side of the coin I will land on. Also, fun fact, this film was directed by Gore Verbinski, which, if you don't know, he would go on to create the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise with Curse of the Black Pearl literally 1 year later. So I find that kind of funny that Disney was looking around and then they saw The Ring, they went, yes, pirates. Today I'm going to break down every single way that The Ring can be scary in 4 key categories. And as always, if you don't want to see spoilers, then I highly suggest skipping to the time code right below me, where I will give a non-spoiler overview of all the categories, so you won't know what happens. But without further ado, let's dive in and find out how scary is The Ring. First category, the thrills, the intense heart-pounding excitement of a horror film. The Ring doesn't actually have a whole lot of thrills to it. This is mostly a mystery film. That's the big takeaway that I got rewatching this film, is that it's all about just this investigation and finding out the origins of the tape and what happened with this little girl and why she cursed it. This film does have sort of the generic jump scary stuff that American horror movies always have, especially back in the 2000s. This was their MO. I do really like the closet jump scare. I actually think that one's very effective and well done, and genuinely freaked me out when I was a kid. That one got me. Every now and then there will be a bit of an exciting scene to kind of keep the energy going, but overall the film is more on the tame side. What really surprised me is the climax of the film, especially when she falls into the well. That was really exciting and thrilling, but then it's sort of like a surprise, like, oh, okay, it's already over, like we already solved the problem. But then the movie gives you a fake out and suddenly, no, it's not over, and Noah's death is actually very thrilling. That is a genuine twist that is probably the thing I remember most about the film, because we kind of thought the film was over by then and the problem was solved, but then this guy who we had learned to kind of care about, and he was just a homie the whole time, he just straight up dies, and it was like, whoa, and that is probably the most famous scene in the movie, when she crawls out of the TV, and that is a cool image. So that whole scene is definitely very thrilling. But then the film actually just ends on like, I guess we'll copy the tape and the curse will keep going. I don't know. And that was a little weird. There were some critics that kind of responded to that a little negatively, like, okay, this ending felt elongated, and I think it was more of like, the conflict was too surface level to really care to keep going, you know, because we didn't actually really care about these characters a whole lot. There wasn't so much of these deep character arcs or realizations that they had as people. So, you know, once the main mystery is solved and over, I kind of just didn't really care anymore. And I think that's maybe part of the reason that people found this ending to go a little too long, because they didn't really care too much to see what else would happen. But yeah, this film just doesn't really have a whole lot of thrills. It's more just having fun with the investigation. And when it has a little thrilling moments, for the most part, I don't think they hit too hard. It's just the highlights that I pointed out. Next category, grossness, the disgusting, ew stuff that your mom doesn't want to look at. And she's always watching these horror movies. The Ring has some gross stuff to it, because overall the tape, obviously, you know, there's all kinds of weird, creepy, gross shots in the tape itself, and the entire story uncovering Samara has gross undertones. There's always weird things popping up with like the blood coming out of the nose, or like the fly being real, and the water seeping through places, and there's like this grungy, like gross feeling with it. Anytime people die from the tape, their faces are kind of gross. That's freaky looking. When Rachel finally finds Samara's body, and she's like just a normal girl at first, but then she slowly melts away to reveal the skeleton, that's kind of gross. Also, the ugly Samara face when she pranks Noah, that bit is definitely a little, yeah. And then definitely the grossest part of the movie is when she's pulling the wire out of her throat, which was weird because when I was watching, I thought it was hair, and then I was like, no, wait, no, that's The Grudge. And it's easy to mix up these movies, but when she pulled it out, I was like, oh, that's a wire? Okay, but yeah, that was kind of gross. It's, yeah, I wouldn't like doing that. So yeah, you got a handful of gross stuff in there. It'll keep you going a little bit, so yeah. Next category, shock value, the disturbing content that you don't usually see in movies. The Ring has a little bit of shock value to it. It's a little bit more than just like a generic whatever movie, but nothing to really blow your mind. First of all, the movie's PG-13, so it doesn't actually show a whole lot or, give you too many things that are really hardcore, because otherwise, well, it wouldn't be PG-13 now, would it? But what we do have that's shocking, of course, anytime we see their dead faces is kind of shocking. It is freaky to look at, not only gross, but just like, oh, okay, whoa, that's a bit of a surprise. The whole story of Samara is pretty shocking, especially the shot where the mom just shoves a bag over her daughter's head and kills her. It's not every day you see a mom kill her daughter. Brian Cox pops up, my long-lost relative, and he kills himself. So that got me a bit. We also got that random scene that they shoved in to keep the energy going when the horse freaks out and then jumps off the boat, breaking its leg, and then the boat like churns it up, like the blades kind of just eat it up, and we just see all the blood in the pool of water. And that was a little shocking and just kind of completely random. And then this one kind of goes more under the category of just shocking story-wise, of just like, oh, what a twist. But Noah's death is pretty big. We followed him and we assumed the story was over, so when he actually does just straight up die in the worst way possible, that hits a bit. That's a bit shocking. So even though we have suicide and animals getting killed and children being murdered by their mothers, again, this movie's PG-13, so I still have to keep the shock value a little bit low because it doesn't show much and it doesn't really hit super hard like anytime some other horror movies would handle this kind of subject matter. And final category, arguably the most important one, atmosphere. The overall tone and feeling of the film. How well is it building the fear in your gut? And The Ring, I kind of have it in the middle because I have criticisms about the atmosphere, but first let's just get out of the way what is good about the atmosphere. I like the dreary tone that this film is going for. It's definitely going for a sort of sad, somber, kind of grim feeling, and part of that is the green color grading, which I do think is a little too much at times, but overall I like what they were going for. I just would have toned it down a bit. But that gives this film this overall feeling and look that you don't usually see in movies. The only other movie I can think of is The Matrix, which was completely different genre and tone, so it definitely works in a different way here without feeling like it's copying off of that movie. I also like the locations that they decided to shoot in. We have constant rain in, I think it was Seattle, and just everything in the city and stuff just kind of feels sad and like, okay. And then when they go to the countryside, it's got this cool, like, old world feel, like, oh, there's history behind this, which adds to the whole mystery and investigation that Rachel undergoes. And so that's really fun and just kind of feeling like this spooky ghost story that we're slowly unraveling. I also have to compliment the score, specifically the little high notes thing that they use whenever someone's watching the tape or, there's a reference to that tape. That is genuinely creepy. I like that. And of course, everyone knows this film because of the urban legend with the tape. I'm sure this film was huge back when it first came out, when videotapes were actually still used. I think this film really gets under your skin if you just are a little more susceptible to those urban legends where, oh, I watched the tape, is it gonna get me? And it's just like, you kind of create the fear yourself. Like, the film isn't really doing a whole lot. It just tells you, hey, here's an urban legend. And then it shows you the tape. And so a lot of the fear just kind of comes from yourself. For me, I had already seen this film before, and I'd seen it a couple times when I was younger, and I liked it then, but now, I don't know if it's just because I'm older and it's 2022, so VHS tapes are just, to me, so in the past, but they didn't really hit me that hard. I don't really actually feel like I'm afraid to watch the tape or whatever. I don't feel like Samara's gonna get me, even though Samara is scary and creepy. I just think that the film was too reliant on that urban legend to carry it, and I think that's maybe part of the reason that audiences are kind of responding more negatively nowadays, because there isn't a whole lot beyond just that investigation. And this is where I will dip into the negative aspects of the atmosphere, where that's really it, actually, is that you have the urban legend and the investigation. The film is very simple. That's the plot. That's it. They try to have a little bit of characterization where Rachel is a single mother and she's kind of like an absentee and just lets her son do whatever. And her son, oddly enough, is just super duper mature and independent for his age and is able to do whatever. And so it's like, okay, that's kind of interesting. Like, maybe there's this arc where she realizes she needs to be a better mom. And, there's this whole romantic subplot with her ex, Noah, who joins her on the journey. And the foundation is there, but they didn't pay it off that much. It's just they hold hands. It's just that, okay, she's back with her son and now they're together. Like, there's not a whole lot of this discovery of like, man, I really need to be there for my son. There's nothing really learned from the characters themselves. And that's also where the ending falls flat, because there wasn't much for us to care about beyond just finding out the mystery of Samara. And the final point on the atmosphere, the film did have this tension growing and did a really good job of keeping track of the 7 days that Rachel had, where each day is like, she's getting closer to death. Is she gonna make it? But they didn't do a whole lot with that countdown. I would have much preferred to have more inner character turmoil. You know, what are the psychological aspects of being told you will die in 7 days and then each day's counting down? Maybe show her not being able to sleep very well. Maybe she's becoming more paranoid and more out of it, and she's getting more freaked out and not even able to hold herself together. When she goes to visit someone, maybe she's not even talking to them anymore. She's just brushing past it. Maybe she just starts stealing things because screw it, I'm gonna die tomorrow, so I might as well just do whatever I can, you know? But none of that's really explored. I know Noah breaks into a place at one point, but it's not really played off like he's desperate. It's more of just like, oh, you're inconvenient, I'll do this anyway. So I would have preferred to have more of that to add to that tension of the ticking clock with the 7 days. But as the film stands, it is just kind of basic surface level. It doesn't really dive that deep into all the things that it sets up. Moving on to the non-spoiler overview. So as you can see, you got a little bit of healthy mix of some of the categories. First of all, the atmosphere is not as high as you would think. I think that the film definitely goes for a much higher atmosphere and had potential, but I think the film falls flat and doesn't dive too deep into the concepts that it brings up. It's more of just a simple scare movie. There's nothing much else to it. You got a handful of some shocking moments in there that are a little surprising maybe for a PG-13 movie. Some gross stuff in there because, you know, yeah, that didn't explain anything, but I don't know. There's a little bit of gross stuff in there, sure, but nothing too much. And then finally with thrills, this film isn't super thrilling. It's got jump scares every now and then, but mostly this film is very simple and just going for a mystery. It's pretty much just one or two characters searching and trying to find the clues to uncover the haunting of Samara and all of that. And yeah, my recommendations, I didn't really care for this film a whole lot. I liked it when I was younger, but rewatching it now, I actually found it to be kind of just simplistic and just generic. I do like the urban legend. I think that's the most popular part of this movie, but I think it's very much stuck in the past, VHS tapes, all of that. There's nothing beyond just there's the urban legend. Okay, cool. You know, there's nothing too much explored with that. If you're looking for just a simple little haunting flick to watch with your friends, this one's fine. If you're looking for something a little deeper with more character and story, I'd look somewhere else. I think this movie had a lot of potential, and I mean, in the end, it still made all the money, and everyone knows about this film, so it did its job right, but maybe that Rotten Tomatoes score is a little bit of a hint that it hasn't had a great reception over time, and people are starting to kind of see like, it was fine, you know, and that's my main takeaway. So it's a fine horror movie. It's aight, but there you go. That's how scary The Ring is. So kind of scary, and I mean, it scared me as a kid. Maybe it'll scare you if you're a kid, but if you're an adult, probably not. But either way, that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching my House Scary videos. Subscribe to check out more of them, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.